Google, a major player in the digital ecosystem, is under fire yet again. In the latest, it is UK's watchdog Competition and Markets Authority that has accused Google of abusing its dominance in digital advertising to thwart competition in Britain. The big allegation being reiterated against Google is that it gives preference to its own services to the detriment of online publishers and advertisers in Britain's 1.8 billion pounds. That's USD 2.4 billion. Well, this is all about the digital ad market alone, against the essence of providing a level playing field. Now, let's just look at what Google really does in this context. Google provides servers for publishers to manage ad space on their websites and apps, tools for advertisers and media agencies to buy advertisements, and an exchange where both sides come together to buy and sell ads in real time at auctions. And the allegation is that these are subverted by the US company for its own advantage. In fact, Google has been indicted by US federal court on allegations of illegal monopoly in the search market. The judge had called Google, quote unquote, a ruthless monopolist. It took the United States 4 years to bring a case under Google or against Google, which eventually culminated in the landmark ruling against the company, the bearings of which will obviously influence much in India as well, particularly the violation of competition laws and the bearings for a regulatory discourse in India. Remember, in India, Google has been found to be at odds with startup founders, which even a month before appealed against the practices of Google. Primarily, its billing policies, alleging stifling competition in the online advertising market. On March 29th last year, the National Company Law Appellate Tribunal had handed out a mixed verdict on Google's alleged anti-competitive practices in the case, upholding a fine of 1,338 crore rupees. Google, though, has claimed it remains committed to creating value for publisher and advertiser partners in its highly competitive sector. The core of this case rests on flawed interpretations of the ad sector. The tech ad sector is what Google has claimed. But it is not just the ad practices for which Google is accused of abusing its dominance, and not just in the UK or not just in the United States. There are several countries, particularly in the European Union as well, and then you have Japan as well and several other countries where Google has been literally on the receiving end. Let's just look at what are the other practices. Like, for example, the latest research that shows when it comes to search results, there's a latest study that suggests that the AI overview, which is Google's, a feature recently introduced by the Google, is having a significant impact on publishers' visibility. In fact, as per the report, AI overview is offering 17% of queries made in US and UK already, which means if you type something to search, the first response that is coming up is that of the AI overview, Google's AI overview, rather than other articles, news websites, or research articles for that matter. This is a complex topic, but something that has divided people a lot, most of them calling out Google and what they call is the anti-competitive practices. But let's just very closely look at it. For this, we have with me right now Advocate NS Nappinai. Thank you so much for joining us. Good evening. Also joining me is Nikhil Mahadeshwar, who's a founder for Cyber Secured India. And apologies, I did not introduce NS Nappinai Advocate, who's a senior advocate and founder for Cyber Sathi. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining us. Well, let me first come across to you, Advocate NS Nappinai. There's so many layers, some of this extremely complex. But let's just break this down and try to give a very clear view to our viewers. At the heart of this, are we saying And it's not just UK that is saying. There are several countries, including India, who have raised concerns. In fact, I was reading just last week, there's another founder of this, another conglomerate of the startups that have again written asking for action against Google on this policy. So are we essentially saying it's a monopolistic tool that Google is using to the disadvantage of others? Would you explain how?
Yeah. So, very simply put, Shreya, no law stops any organization from earning profits. Nothing stops you from developing technology and using it to the benefit of users and to earn profits in a wise and responsible manner. The issue today before us is when that position is abused, and the law calls it a dominant position because you're a first player, you have benefited from being a first player, you have achieved a sort of monopolistic position, and when you start abusing that special position, a dominant position as the law lays it down, that's when law comes into play to say, sorry, this is unacceptable. And these are called competition laws or antitrust laws, depending on the kind of situation you're faced with, etc. You have already done this session on the India judgment on against Google, where it abused dominant position in terms of its Play Store, etc. We have seen many other instances too. So now when you look at the UK situation, what concerns me is this. One, the big platforms are fully aware of where they stand in terms of their monopolies, in terms of certain sectors, and how it impacts a user. They are aware of the power in their hands, the dominant power as the law calls it. And they have been hauled up substantially with very heavy fines repeatedly in multiple jurisdictions. So are we faced with the same situation we have seen time and again with big tech? And I'm not talking only about Google here, which is that we would rather apologize later than play by the rules or than seek permission. So that's the little disconcerting, because effectively then what it amounts to is that even these heavy fines are probably not making a dent sufficient enough to rein in abuse, sufficient enough to stop abuse of a dominant position. This is something that the regulator may have to look into in a proactive manner, more as a watchdog than just in terms of, coming in after the horse has bolted. Secondly, I think now it's time for big tech to rein in this kind of situation and start acting responsibly.
Well, Mr. Nikhil Mahadeshwar, if you want to respond to what Advocate NS Nappinai is saying, and to be very fair to what Ms. Nappinai is saying, let's also look at what the UK has said, the watchdog has said in very strong words. The words are being used, that have been used, they've abused their position, they've abused their monopoly. These are not just random words being used, as some of you would say, by journalists. No, these are the official versions of courts, of watchdogs that are coming out from countries after countries, Mr. Nikhil.
So let us first of all understand how the Google search engine basically works. And when basically there is some kind of claims on Google search results, so Google basically searches with its spider technology. So it crawls from all over the World Wide Web. And now, as the latest AI tool, which is used by Google, and the results are being displayed using that AI tools also. So the result differs region to region. And Google has its own algorithm for setting up the Google
No, so what is the point you're making? I am not understanding.
Am I audible?
Yes, please go ahead. It's just that I'm not understanding what the point is. Yes, certainly you are audible, Mr. Nikhil. The concern here is to what you're trying to establish. I'm not getting to what really the point here is at this.
Yeah, so my point here is like Google cannot control that type of thing, like which ad can come up and down. It has its own algorithms basically, where if as a advertiser or a publisher, if you pay or subscribe to the advertising service, it will basically give the results as per the algorithm. That is what I wanted to make as a point. And it will give as per the region specific results that it will give. So, and accusing Google or claiming something to Google, they should have enough forensic evidences or enough evidences when they are making such type of statements or accusations.
No, I'm sure enough evidence is required and is something that they would have. But to just take from where you are leaving this, Mr. Nikhil and Miss Advocate Nappinai, if you can come in. It's interesting for what he's saying is about algorithms, but let's just look at what the latest findings have been. And we were doing it ourselves. Even in India, we are getting to see this when we are typing certain topics. My colleague was just typing it out and we were looking at it. When you are searching for certain topics in the search engines, the first prompt, the first response that's showing is of the AI overview. That's the response that's coming in. In US and UK, there's research that shows that 17% of such searches are first view of AI overview. Now, if that's the case for US and UK, in India, obviously, we don't have a research to show any such thing. But if it's algorithm, how is it functioning like this?
Yeah. So the first response I would like to give to Nikhil's statement is, unfortunately, he seems to be missing the point that what we are talking today are from decisions of courts. These are not news items and these are not allegations that we are talking about, but from decisions of courts. Interestingly, you must also keep in mind that the CCI order has been affirmed by an appellate court. You mentioned that in the beginning, Shreya, the NCLAT judgment. So we are not talking in the air. We are not making accusations against any big tech. We are merely debating what has come out from court decisions. So it's really important to know what you're saying and distinguish between mere accusations or allegations and the decisions that we are debating here. Secondly, to tell you, we are actually talking about two different things. The UK government's, CMA's order is about the ad search aspect, where they are saying that Google is giving priority to its own services rather than to others, and therefore it's a violation of the anti-monopolistic practices. The second aspect that you have raised your concern about now is about the AI overview. Firstly, these AI tools repeatedly, and we have seen that in the Mata case, that there are AI hallucinations and AI outcomes are not necessarily perfect.
That's right.
But without going into the perfection or
Correct.
otherwise of the outcome, to give priority to your own service is a promotional activity. So now Google will have to substantiate and show how it claims that such prioritization is not a monopolistic practice, because it is their platform and it is their tool, and they are giving primacy to their own search outcomes, where they are not giving any certainty for the correctness of the outcome. Nobody else can either. Everything may be just an opinion. But why are you giving priority to your own? That's the criticality here. How an algorithm is structured, how your architecture is structured, is how an outcome is also brought about. So it's not like Google is claiming that its AI overview comes of its own accord in the first lot. It is their case that it is their own AI overview, right? And therefore, they have to answer to how their architecture functions in being able to throw up their results where they are not giving any certainty on the outcome also.
Right. Nikhil Mahadeshwar, if you could come in. Now, what has Google said? Google has said this is a misinterpretation or a skewed understanding of how the advertisement world functions on the internet. But look at what's happening. There are, in India, if you look at it, there are startup conglomerates, groups, founders that have repeatedly petitioned, the latest being just last week, about how these skewed practices of Google, one, makes them devoid of any level played field. That is just one aspect. And second is about the skewed revenues that emerge eventually. Several founders have written, several startup groups have written about their concerns. Of course, in India, these are big concerns. Google has also been fined last year heftily. But as Ms. Nappinai is saying, looks like apologizing later or providing for a fine later is hardly an issue when it comes to Google and its reach and its scale.
Yes, I understand the point made by Napina ma'am. But here I'll make the point very clear when they are claiming that it is not transparent. So, like they have the tools which are open while, like, as I told you, Google Ads Keywords Planner is there, where people can go and just log in and check each and every keyword, what is the ratings, what are the results, and basis on which region, what time span, your results will be displayed. So there are few tools which are giving approximation, which are also matching the results at time, with maximum. That is what I will say. Not 100%, but maximum. That is what I will say.
Advocate Nappinai, I mean, clearly Google will have to give in a lot of explanation, and it's not just going to be to one country, to several countries, including India. But the concern really at the heart of it, when so much is happening on the internet, it's literally the world where businesses are being groomed, are growing, are multiplying, revenues are flowing in. That's just one part of it. You have the other part of it of information, misinformation, disinformation, elections, so much of it, all of it very closely linked to advertisements. This whole challenge around Google and the way it's using, or as it's being argued, abusing its power in the internet space is hugely disconcerting.
Indeed. I just want to qualify whatever I have said and what I wish to say now also with this statement. We are not here on a witch hunt. So it's not like any of us want big tech to fail. It is not like we want big tech to suffer. Big tech provides a very critical service to us and we need it and we want it. We are just saying do it responsibly, and I think they owe it to us on that. So what you're mentioning now, it's really very simple, right? Internet is our, world today. We reach out to the world through the internet, and a search engine is like a gateway to that internet platform. And if you do not get your foot in the door into that gateway, your businesses can suffer, your personal communication suffers, and be it a person who's offering communication or receiving communication, at both ends, you suffer if a search engine does not work in a fair and unbiased manner. We may be asking for a lot because we understand it's a corporation, it's a business entity at the end of the day. But there are laws that clearly set down what is permissible and what is impermissible, and you're duty bound to follow it. Laws are not going to give you discretion saying, oh, you're such a good service provider, so we'll turn a blind eye to what you're doing, right? You are going to be fined, you're going to be penalized, and law is going to look a lot more strictly as you go forward, because if you keep persistently violating, then law is going to look a lot more deeper than turn a blind eye to you. So we have to really hope that they'll wake up to their responsibility and understand that compliance is not discretionary, it's mandatory.
Right. Thank you so much, Advocate NS Nappinai, as well as Nikhil Mahadeshwar, for joining us. As I said, these are very complex issues, and we have not even entered the realm of privacy at this point. But nonetheless, huge takeaways from what's unfolded in the UK as well. Both of you, thank you very much for your time and for sharing your perspectives.